Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to rise and speak on Bill 12. And, Mr. Speaker, I don't think anyone can argue that keeping Alberta safe is the #1 priority. And yesterday we debated in the legislature the importance of getting it right, and we talked about the importance of consultation. So I would like to get some clarification from the minister on several issues, if I may, and hopefully that Minister of Justice will read Hansard, because, Mr. Speaker, I think what's important about democracy is, and the opportunity having the last 2 weeks to be at home, you move around the province, you move around your constituency, you have some debates about what legislation is important and other legislation that's not so important. And I had the opportunity to talk to people. In fact, it was interesting because for Bill 12, which I honestly didn't think would create that much debate, I've had a lot of calls. We've had a lot of emails on that. I've had a lot of discussion on Bill 12. So for me, in second reading, it's to get some clarification from the minister. So the notes that I've taken have notes that I've heard from across the province. It's across from what people have called me. It's in some meetings I've had, and so I would really like to get some clarification. So I would like to ask the minister, who have you consulted with on developing this legislation? Because, as I indicated earlier, we talked a lot about consultation, and I'd like to know who was consulted on this legislation, how much time was spent on the consultation. One of the things that's been interesting is, did you consult with those selling the body armour? Many of the people that we've talked to get some clarification from them, have not been called. They haven't been consulted, or in fact, they haven't even been asked for their advice or their opinion. They heard about this Bill 12, but have not been called, haven't been consulted, haven't even been asked for their advice or their opinion. It's important to note that there are a number of individuals employed in dangerous industries that are not exempt from the permit application process, such as taxi drivers or local shop owners. So if a shop owner or a taxi driver feels unsafe performing their daily duties and wishes to apply for a permit, the bill does not touch on what criteria must be met by that individual in order to be approved or even considered for a permit. Mr. Speaker, another concern is the registrar and its duties to report illegal activities. Now, I understand the Alberta Solicitor General and Public Safety will administrate the application process. My concerns is that Bill 12 does not mention whether or not the registrar is responsible for informing police authorities if an application for a permit is thought to be connected with criminal or otherwise illegal activities. If an individual applies for body armour and is thought to be involved in a gang or crime ring, what requirements are in place for the registrar to report that individual? Another question relates to the fee an individual would incur to apply for a permit. Bill 12 is very vague in stating in Section 6, brackets 2, Clause B, in quotations, be accompanied with the prescribed fee. Mr. Speaker, what or where does the bill deal with Internet sales? How do you plan on dealing with that? If you type into the Internet body armour or bulletproof vests, it brings a host of companies where you can purchase body armour online. What is ironic and to me interesting is how many came up and how easy it is to purchase. What is even funnier is under legal terms of sale and the website use, which and I'm just going to quote from one of them under legal terms of sale and website use. We only sell to law-abiding adults. Body armour is purely defensive item, but regardless, we are very sensitive to the possibility of vests being misused by criminals. By buying a vest from us, you certify that you are a law-abiding adult with no felony convictions. Now, that's ironic, because you go down further on reading that, and so it assumes no liability. It tells you about the shipping and handling. So it tells you all about the bulletproof vest. It tells you all about the body armour. You can even send your size. So Criminal one can type in here that, yes, I'm a law-abiding citizen. My name is Joe Blow, and I want this, and how are we going to control that? Mr. Speaker, I also have some questions that I want to have the minister respond to on the how many employees will your proposed registry have? How much will it cost? And couldn't these employees and these dollars be put to better use on the front line of policing? Another question, this is from a police officer, is a provincial stat offence going to stop gang members from obtaining body armour? Under exemptions 4 at brackets H, who can set up, and this is another one from a police officer, under exception 4 at brackets H, who can set up businesses, and what is stopping organized gang members from setting up the business and selling it to other members of the organized crime gang members? So, Mr. Speaker, these are, I know and I realize the importance of keeping our communities safe, and I had the honour of chairing the task force traveling this wonderful province, talking to hundreds of people about what's important to them to keep the communities safe, and how they wanted to, what they wanted to see, and we put forward many, many recommendations on that. I support the concept of the bill. I truly do. But we need to get clarification, and we talked about that in depth yesterday in regards to getting it right. So I'd be more than pleased to have the minister respond to the questions. I think they're important. These are the questions, quite frankly, that Albertans have asked us. These aren't the questions that the member from Calgary Fish Creek pulled out of her hat and said, okay, well, I need to understand this, I need to understand this. These are some of the questions, as I alluded to earlier, that the police have asked me to get clarification on. I'm sure other members of the House have received some of the emails in regards to some of the questions and things that have come in regards to this particular piece of legislation. I can only tell you that it's important to get some answers, and I know some of the police have written, because I've got a copy of one of the emails that was sent to us, and it was addressed to the Premier, it was addressed to Minister Redford. He says very clearly that he's a police officer. He says, I'm being blunt. This is a typical political legislation to make headlines that does nothing to solve the problem and has unintended victims. I'm a cop in this province. I'm involved in gang enforcement. Basically, he went on to ask some questions, some of those that I've brought forward in regards to the questions that I'd like the minister responsible to answer. And if those can be answered, Mr. Speaker, it's what we discussed yesterday. It's about clarity. It's about getting it right. I think there's some important cost factors that need to be answered in this particular legislation.